Hey, my name's Sam Collier, and this is my beautiful wife,
Tony Collier.
And we want to officially welcome you out to Married People Presents the 30-Day Kindness Challenge with best-selling author of this incredible book, The Kindness Challenge, 30 Days to Improve Any Relationship. Ladies and gentlemen, Shanti Feld.
Can I, take you on the road with me? You guys are awesome.
Come on, can we get a high five right there?
So looking forward to this. I'm so looking forward to this.
We are too. Well, listen, we're getting ready to jump into this challenge. Session 1, to be exact. Tell us what we should expect.
So it turns out the secret sauce to improve any marriage, even if you've got a great marriage, just want a better one, is really to learn how to be kind. And we think we already are.
Right.
So this is us kind of having the realization, maybe we're not so much as we think, and learning how to do it right.
So without further ado, let's jump in. In this first session, the idea is why kindness? Why kindness? And so one of the questions I just want to throw at everybody in the room right now, I just want to throw it at is, what do we think about kindness being something that can actually make a relationship better? Do y'all believe that's true?
I think it's just common sense, really. To treat other people the way you'd want to treat them. And I try to do that in public. I'm not always as successful at home doing it, unfortunately. But generally, just treat people the way you want to be treated.
It's
common sense.
No, it's great. What about you guys?
I agree. I feel like when you're outside, it's easier for you to kind of micromanage how you're treating strangers. Absolutely. But when it comes to being home, you're kind of in a routine and you forget to actually be intentional with how you treat somebody.
Yeah. I find out that sometimes it's easy to forget to be kind to the person that you're closest to.
Why would you say that?
You spend so much time with this person and you just fall into this rhythm.
So you're comfortable.
Yeah, and you become very comfortable, but being kind is intentional.
I think you forget, I think you start thinking that it's a little thing.
Right.
But they add up.
Right. And to your point, I think it's a great segue into our next question, because Vicki, what would you define kindness as? What does it mean to be kind?
I think it is simply putting yourself second. I think it's just being unselfish.
So I feel like you're saying, choosing in a moment to believe maybe the best about a situation can help you be more kind, even though it might be a little crazy.
Yeah, like John said, it's intentional.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shanti Feldhahn. Thanks for joining me for the Married People 30-Day Kindness Challenge. I think you'll find that this time will be a game changer for you. It is fun and very simple, but it is likely to make a very meaningful difference in your marriage, and actually in a lot of your relationships over time. I'm a social researcher, speaker, and best-selling author, as well as a wife and a mom. Over the course of about 14 years, I've conducted 8 major, rigorous national studies, investigating those little changes that make big difference in lives and relationships. And the common denominator in all of that is this one truth. Whether we thrive in our life, whether we thrive in our relationships, is far more related to how we treat other people than how we ourselves are treated. In other words, the biggest game-changing thing we can do for our relationships and ourselves is to be kind, to show the sort of kindness God asks us to have in our lives. Here's the problem. We already think we are kind. I'm betting every person listening to this deeply values kindness. We think we're kind and have no idea that we're a bit deluded. Even worse, we have no idea how often we're unkind. In the research, I was shocked to find out how often we're hurting our spouse and sabotaging our marriage without ever realizing it. On our survey, we found that 95% of us have these blind spots. I'll be very transparent and give you one of mine. You'll hear shortly that one of the steps of kindness is to hold back negativity. When I first started this, I thought, I'm not negative, until I started cataloging all the different types of negativity from the research, and I realized I am negative every single day. One of the 7 types of negativity is exasperation, and I get exasperated with my kids and even my husband all too often. I love them. I'd never say, "You're an idiot," out loud, but that's what they're hearing in my exasperation. And that is just one little example. In this study, we'll be looking at those blind spots and what game-changing things each of us individually most needs to work on, as well as some of the big picture things that everyone needs to work on. Not just to have great marriages and relationships, but also because over and over, God asks us to. Think about the straightforward directive God gives us in Ephesians 4:32. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you. God has that expectation of us because he knows it matters, both for us and our marriages and for a watching world.
Now, babe, we're married. Yeah. We're excited about this. Me and you were talking about kindness. We came up with some questions.
We did.
What's one of yours?
Okay, so the first one that we came up with is one that's super simple, but it does require kind of like an internal heart check. Do you think you're kind?
Jen, I thought we were going to Jennifer. We're going to Jennifer.
She looked at me. She was like, I don't want to answer it.
Well, I think it's hard because as I get older, it's easier for me to just want to be focused on what I'm doing and not really thinking about other people, right? Just because I know my schedule, I know what I have to do. But to be able to take a moment and think, hey, like, why don't I put them first? Why don't I think of what needs to happen so that that person is more comfortable than I am?
John?
Being kind is like that extra step that you take towards being intentional towards somebody and like serving somebody.
Yeah.
So
would you say are you saying you lean towards the glass half empty type thing? Like, am I being unkind versus saying?
Yeah, because like, when you're busy working and when you get into a routine of life, if you were to ask me if I was being kind, maybe not all the time. I'm going to be honest.
No, yeah, that honesty, we need that. We need that. It's a good space. It's a good space
you
for all
just get
that.
caught up in life, and then there's just so much that's on your plate. You're answering emails, and then you just get into this routine. So.
And I think the problem also lies with, I don't know if that's kindness to that other person.
Ooh.
But to me, I think it is.
Yeah.
Or if let's say he spoke to somebody else and I'm micromanaging him, and I'll be like, hey, that might have made them feel uncomfortable. Yeah. But did it really, or did it just make me feel uncomfortable?
Ooh.
So,
we're going deep. No. Pause.
Well, but not everybody's motives are 100% pure. And as much as I'd like to be kind to other people and make them feel good, I want them also to think, man, that Paul, he sure is a nice guy. I mean, I
love that.
Because I'm sort of a people pleaser in that I want, people to like me and to enjoy being around me and that kind of thing. And then sometimes I drop that when I get at home.
So, how do we get there? What we'll be doing is based on many years of research to uncover the most effective way to improve a marriage. Years ago, I started looking into this when Christian author and speaker Nancy DeMoss Wolgemuth shared an initiative she calls the Husband Encouragement Challenge. As I shared it with some other women, I was really struck by the remarkable results I was seeing in marriages, and I started to investigate it more purposefully. What was it specifically that was leading to these remarkable results? I ended up experimenting with different types of actions, enlisting people to experiment with them, do focus groups and interviews, and before and after surveys. In the end, this became a major national study with more than 700 participants. I also compared what I was finding to what the Bible says leads to transformation in relationships. As with all our research studies, what we found in this social science process backs up what the Bible has said all along. Using all that research, we identified the most impactful transformative process and called it the 30-Day Kindness Challenge. And since the book, The Kindness Challenge, was released, we estimate that well over 100,000 people have done the 30-Day Kindness Challenge in the first year alone. Now we're using our research and partnering with married people to create a 30-Day Kindness Challenge just for marriages, which we hope each of you will do as part of this study. You'll find it is very effective at making the other person feel cared for and improving your marriage. I think you'll find it's fun for both of you. And I think you'll also find it is very eye-opening for you. Now, the videos for the other sessions are all shorter, but in this introductory session, let's just take a couple of extra minutes to explain the 30-Day Kindness Challenge itself. Every day for 30 days, you do these 3 things. First, say nothing negative about your spouse, either to them or about them to someone else, which is often where we sabotage ourselves. Let's say you're a woman doing this for your husband, and it bugs you how often he works late or is late to your daughter's volleyball games when he promised he'll be there on time. For 30 days, you can't complain to him about it, and you can't go to your female friends at work and complain about it there either. Say nothing negative about your spouse, either to them or about them. And if you're in some sort of unusual situation where some negative feedback is unavoidable, let's say you run a business together and you have to correct some error your spouse made, just make sure you're constructive and encouraging with no negative tone. Second, every day, find one positive thing that you can sincerely praise or affirm about your spouse and tell them and tell somebody else. So if you're that wife, you can't complain about your husband working too many hours or being late to dinner or volleyball, but you're looking for things to praise. And you notice that despite the long hours, he did all the dishes after dinner once he did get home, or he went and apologized to your daughter between sets for missing so much of the game. So you thank him for that. And then you go to work and you tell your friends, you know what he did? He was late to the game, but he went and apologized to her. Isn't that sweet? Or let's say you're the husband who's used to being hammered because you are working those long, long hours and are often late to the volleyball game or small group or dinner with friends. And you notice that Thursday night for your small group, your wife not only doesn't say anything about joining her there late, she also goes out of her way to ask if there's anything she can do to help afterwards so you can get to bed at a decent hour. Tell her how much you appreciate both those things. And then when your brother is checking in with you the next day about how are you surviving, mention how glad you are that you have a supportive wife. Third, every day, do one small act of kindness or generosity for your spouse. Let's say your spouse is always rushing in the morning, so you go make the coffee instead so they can take it with them, even though it means you're getting up a few minutes earlier. Or maybe there's something they really need to run by you on the phone and you don't have time, but you take the time anyway, even though it makes you 5 minutes late to your meeting. Whatever it is, do a little action of generosity each day. And all of this is one-sided and unconditional, regardless of whether you see your spouse responding or not. That's it. Those 3 things each day are the 30-Day Kindness Challenge. It's so simple, but you'll find it is powerful. So, are you ready to get started? Here's a few technical details to help you begin. First, pick a date to start this 30-Day Kindness Challenge. You can start this process at any time, but if you're doing this in a group and if you are meeting weekly, our recommendation is you start together the day after you meet to discuss session 2. So ideally, that would mean just over 1 week from now. This study is designed with that time frame in mind, and that will give you a week to set yourself up well for success. Your participant guide for this session will give you those steps, including how to identify what needs most apply to you, and our recommendation that you keep a journal or a notebook of what you're learning and what you see working well as you go. You'll also see the suggested reading in the book, The Kindness Challenge. Second, we particularly recommend that you sign up at jointhekindnesschallenge.com/marriedpeople. Just be sure to pick the same start date as a group. The 30-Day Kindness Challenge is to do those 3 things each day, say nothing negative and so on, whether you use any of the daily reminder ideas. Third, we have a quick note for the men. This video study will focus on the main 3 elements of the 30-Day Kindness Challenge that I just described. However, there is one little alternative option that husbands might choose to do. You see, some men found that when they were challenged to don't say anything negative, they thought, okay, I just won't talk. And that, of course, was quite counterproductive. So we created an alternative option for element number 1, and that is, don't be distracted and don't withdraw. Give your wife at least 15 minutes of undistracted listening time each day. Many men and their wives really appreciated that, but the research found that either way was very effective, so just decide which way you want to do it. And if you want more information, Chapter 9 in the book explains that alternative a little bit more. Finally, since you're doing this as a couple, we want to encourage you to believe the best of your spouse's intentions as you go and focus on what you can do, whether or not you feel like your spouse is doing their part. When you see your spouse saying something affirming in the next few weeks, it'll be so easy to think, you are only doing that because she told you to. Yet in our research, almost 100% of married couples, even in difficult relationships, deeply care about each other. We found the quickest way to sabotage a relationship is to let yourself believe the opposite. Now, sometimes there are real issues, and you may be in a situation where strong boundaries are also needed. And if that's you, we address those situations in Chapter 3 of the Kindness Challenge. However, even in those situations, your spouse probably deeply cares about you, even if they have some work to do to show it. And in this 30-day kindness challenge, this may be their effort to show it. Bottom line, regardless of your situation, assume your spouse means the positive things they say and is doing this because they care about you. That's almost certainly the truth. And finally, as we wrap up for today, we urge you to focus on what you can do and the changes you see in you. That is the main point, after all. In our research, 89% of relationships improved in the 30 days. But that's not 100%. Sometimes you'll be planting seeds that have to be watered for longer than a month before they'll really begin to grow. And after all, God's directive for us to be kind doesn't come with conditions. Very much the opposite. He says, be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, which assumes there will be things that continue to frustrate us about our spouse. And not only are we to continue to be kind, we must also do that by continuing to offer forgiveness. As you'll quickly see, it won't always be them. Sometimes you will get halfway through the day and realize, well, I've messed up a lot today. Don't worry. In any of those situations, ask God for help and keep going. And as you go, you'll see some wonderful changes in you and probably in them. It'll get easier and easier. You'll be building a competence at kindness that will transform your marriage and over time will help lots of your relationships thrive. Because most of all, you'll find that all of this is changing you. Thanks for joining married people on this journey.
What would you guys say happens when you're kind, and why does it shift the room so quickly? I mean, why is it so impactful in moments of tension when kindness enters into the picture?
I think it's contagious. I think it just, all of a sudden, a lot of tensions just go away.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at for that other person, I just think it's just a thing that happens in the room. It releases so much. It releases so much in our household. Just beginning to be kinder to each other, all of a sudden, the little things don't matter so much anymore. Little irritations are not nearly as heavy as they used to be. So it catches on.